In this episode of OG 55, I got Mr. Webba, Mr. Theme Park Conductor with me today. We're talking about Disneyland alternatives, not, Six Flags, Universal, whatever it is. Are there actual alternatives to the Disney experience? We're going to talk about it. We're also going to talk about Mr. Webba's recent Disneyland Resort experience with Haunted Mansion's virtual queue and some of the dark rides changing up their capacity, their loading situation a little bit. We're going to talk with Mr. Webba about that up next on OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. I have these two fine gents joining me today. We got Mr. Theme Park Conductor, Mr. Webba. We're talking all about the Disney Experience alternative, other theme parks. How does it match up with that value statement? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about Haunted Mansion virtual queue and capacity at the Disney Dark Rides. Before we do, Theme Park Conductor, welcome back on the show, sir.
Absolutely. It's great to be back. I know we're missing George. I wish him the best. I think he's in Florida tonight, probably swing his Italian meatballs, as I call it, off. I'm glad to be back on the show. Everyone in your community, you can find me on Instagram and YouTube at Theme Park Conductor. You can find me on Twitter at Theme Conductor. And also, I do a live stream every Thursday night at 7 p.m. It's called Conductor Thursday Live Stream. We talk everything from Universal to Disney to the theme parks to the upcoming HHN season. And we've been talking a little bit here and there about the D23 Expo, that OG 55. And Disney, the George Italiano, is going to be at all 3 days. So stay tuned every Thursday at 7 p.m. for that live stream. Conductor puts on a fantastic show every single Thursday. We've made appearances on there, Webba and I, and the Italiano. Make sure you go and check him out on YouTube and support him. He is a friend of the channel, absolutely, and we love the work that he does. Mr. Webba, welcome back, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me on, OG. It is, it is a pleasure and honor and to be back. So happy to be back on tonight's show. And yeah, there's some pretty interesting topics that that I think that we can really dive into and see what you guys think, see what the fan community out there thinks about them. I'm really curious. So you can find me. Well, here's the thing. If you want to catch me outside, right, you can catch me at Legoland. And you can catch me at Disneyland. That's where you can catch me outside. And then if you want to catch me online, you can catch me on Twitter. Kind of, not really anymore. I'm kind of getting off it. I'm still there, but Instagram, I'm more active on there now. And also here on OG 55. And that is Mr. Webba, as in my name right there, at Webslinger760.
There he is. And since we don't have the Italiano with us, but we got Mr. Webba, and you know what? Webs are pretty sticky too. There we go. Sticky webs. Here we go. All right, let's dive right in. So that looks bad. Dive. Okay. Never mind. Oh wow. Okay, so let's dive right in. So Disney alternatives, right? Because we hear about this a lot in the community, right? Like, Disney, they're expensive, or they don't care about their guests, or this, that, and the other, and I'm going to take my money and I'm going to go to Knott's, or I'm going to take my money and I'm going to go to Universal, right? Webba, I will start with you. You've seen this too. We've all seen it, on social media. Is this a viable thing? And this is a very subjective thing. I think all three of us might have very different opinions on this, because it's very much a value statement, what I'm saying, and what you kind of want to glean from these experiences, whether or not one park is a true alternative to Disney. But what say you? What do you see these other places as real alternatives, or is it kind of lopsided?
Right. So if I can just kind of go back to the originator of this, I came across, I was just going through Facebook kind of magic key holder groups, and I saw someone made a comment, and even though I seen this comment a lot, right, I never really thought about it until for some reason it just clicked with me. I was like, wait a minute, that's interesting. Someone said, we go to knots as a, we use it as a alternative. We get more value from it or whatnot, right? Because Disney is expensive, right? And even
Yeah.
my coworker at work, she's noticed because she's a non-season pass holder that it's getting more crowded. I think because Disney is starting to price people out. And what I want to say is probably very controversial. So I'm not saying Knott's is a bad park or anything, but you're right. The value of what you hold something to you is very subjective. Now, on the other hand, though, I want to see if there's any type of objectivity to this, right? Because you look at Disneyland, you look at Knott's Berry Farm, which one is the objectively premium experience park? Right? It's going to be Disneyland. Sure,
Yeah.
if you're a thrill junkie, you love all the twisty turnies, upside downs, fast thrill. That's going to be really more. You can still do those parks, and which a lot of people can. They can still do those. But then, OG, to your point that you made before, where's like the everybody rides, right? And then where's that more high quality, kind of guest service, shows, attractions, things that are really in-depth storytelling. Not saying that Nas doesn't have any of those, because I know you guys could probably speak to that more than I can, but I don't just see that being on the same level tier as Disney. So my question is it really a alternative? Yes, it's a theme park, so in a way it is, but is it really a alternative in terms of the kind of quality experience you get from Disneyland to Knott's Berry Farm?
Yeah, and in my opinion, I don't think it is a true alternative. Not to say Knott's is a bad place. I think Knott's
Right.
has a lot of great stuff. It's a great regional park, and it holds a lot of value, right? There are a lot of cool things like the ghost town, very cool stuff there. The
Right.
railroad's amazing. I love the railroad. But here's the thing. It's kind of like if you were going to take food, for example.
Yeah.
You have a restaurant like Applebee's, right? Right? You have Applebee's. And then you got like say Morton's Steakhouse, right? They both technically kind of do the same thing. You go in there, you sit down, you eat,
Yeah.
right? I could probably get a hamburger at both or a steak at both, right? But clearly Morton's, while more expensive, you're also getting a higher quality product, right? So would it be a true alternative for me to say like, okay, you know what? Morton's is a little pricey for me right now. I'm going to go instead. The alternative is Applebee's, right? Is that a true apples to apples, no pun intended, comparison? In my opinion, absolutely not. Applebee's and what you get at Applebee's is a completely different animal than what you get at Morton's. Technically, though, you're walking into a restaurant. Technically, you're sitting down at both. Technically, you're eating food at both. But there is a value difference there, absolutely, and it's like that's how I kind of feel about Disneyland with like a park like Knott's, right?
Mhm.
I get great stuff at Knott's, just like I can go to Applebee's and man, the fries are freaking awesome. They're great, what I'm saying, or the cheeseburger's fantastic, but it's not the same value statement as a Disney park. So for me personally, it's not a real alternative. You know what I'm saying? It feels very much like a step down for me personally. And here's the other thing too, you brought it up, Ebba, where it's like, I'm very much like our friend Bricky, hey Bricky, or he's vibes over rides. So I like atmosphere. I've said it many times on the channel. Disney provides a lot more of that. Now, I'm not saying that Knott's doesn't have any of that because the ghost town is amazing. But kind of outside the ghost town, it's a lot of amusement parky energy for me personally, and I don't find much value in sitting on a bench and watching these giant steel roller coasters, and that's just for me personally. But what say you, conductor? What do you think? I mean, I know you're kind of more of a, if I'm not mistaken, kind of more of a Universal guy overall, right? So what's your take on this?
So my take is, I'm going to go the Universal route and do that comparison with Disneyland.
Mhm.
So the first thing I'm going to point out, which I think we can all agree, is Disneyland itself, between that and DCA, is at least a 2-day, maybe a 3-day minimum park to get through everything, especially on a busy weekend or weekday. Universal, on the other hand, is a 1-day park. Obviously, they're trying to make it more than a one-day park by adding a new roller coaster, adding a new hotel coming soon, courtesy of Theme Park Wizard, another friend of the channel on all of our channels. But the comparison I can see with Universal and Disneyland is the fact that I feel that Universal has that ability to provide that atmosphere where you don't just feel like you're in a theme park. You feel like in certain sections of the park, you feel like you're immersed, whether it's in the world of Harry Potter or, in Super Nintendo world, minus the stupid Comcast building you can see from the ground, but you feel immersed. Then it has character dining as well. Like in Harry Potter, you have the three broomsticks, which if anyone has watched the Harry Potter movies, that restaurant's been shown in the movies quite a bit. Mainly towards the middle of the movie series, towards the end. But you have that. Then you have Toadstool Cafe, which is completely immersive. You have you have a lot of history. So, in my personal opinion, and again, Knott's is great. I'm not doubting Knott's at all, because when I used to live in Orange County, it was either go to Disneyland or go to Knott's. Universal was just out of the question, because back then I didn't drive. So I had either to take a bus or had my parents drop me off when I was younger to go to these theme parks. So that's what I had to base it off of. But now that I'm able to go to Universal, I think Universal stands up to Disney, not in the capacity standpoint, but just the immersion and the way a regular theme park guest feels.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, Universal is much more of it's much more on par with that value statement with Disney, I think, than I think Knott's is, because the Universal, you're right, has more examples of that themed experience, so to speak. Like at Knott's, it's really just the ghost town. If you really want heavy theming, that's pretty much it. I mean, Camp Snoopy, I don't really know. You know what I'm saying? But at Universal, like you said, you got Super Nintendo World, very immersive, very well done. You have Harry Potter, which is one of the most immersive things in the theme park industry, not just at Universal. You know what I'm saying? But then you even have other things at Universal that, like you were saying with the history, like the tram tour, and you kind of learn about the studio and just Hollywood in general, which there's a lot of value there. So I think Universal definitely is more on par with Disney in terms of that value statement and being maybe more of an alternative. It is slightly under though for me than Disney, just because. And I do have a bias. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say that I don't. I do have a bias. I do prefer Disney. But if I take off my bias cap, the only thing that works against Universal for me personally is, like I said on many videos, they don't have a lot of everybody rides. You know what I'm saying? It's like either like it's either like kind of like like the Minion stuff, or it's like they're really throwing you around. It's there's a lot of extremes. If Universal were to add like maybe one or two, just like a dope like Pirates style boat ride or something, it would be pretty neck and neck then. I think that's the only thing holding back Universal for me personally, is a couple more like rides that like everybody can do. Because I gotta be honest with you, like, I don't always, like, for example, Transformers, right? Like, I'm not like a coaster guy, and that's not really a coaster. And I'll go on Transformers, but sometimes I don't really feel like getting thrown around though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just kind of want to go on a bunch of stuff that like I can kind of not have to like white claw it the whole way through. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of want to just, so if it had a few more everybody rides, I think it would be a much more closer comparison. What say you, Mr. Webba?
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely agree with with both of you guys, and with especially with the whole Universal thing. Like for me, right, especially now having gone to Universal recently a few times, and with the OG Theme Park Wizard George and our good friend theme park conductor down here.
Yes. And I didn't get to go with conductor yet, but I was with you guys in spirit on your live stream, conductor.
Yes. that was great.
A lot.
Oh, that was great. But yeah, I mean, I feel that way with Universal. That for me, because here's the thing, right? It's like, yes, Universal, they are steadily, creepily increasing their prices up to like Disney's like standards, right? But even still, you look at their passes now. Now we can say, okay, look at Disneyland and Universal Studios Hollywood, right? Obviously, Disneyland's going to have more things to do in the park. I get that, right? And also, I'm biased too. I love Disney, right? But Universal Studios Hollywood, it's a great fun park.
Yeah.
And actually, if it was closer, I would go to it more often. It's just way too out of like distance for me to go there a lot, and they close earlier. But the thing is with Universal though is they do have that in-depth theming atmosphere. Like the team members there are in costume and doing their roles and everything like that. But to Oji's point, you're right. They do have a few rides that are kind of like tossing around and fast, whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I will say that for me, like especially with the pass holders, that it is like I would say Universal Studios Hollywood is more of a alternative for a theme park to Disney than Knott's Berry Farm or Six Flags. Like I would say Six Flags and Knott's Berry Farm would be kind of like a good alternatives to each other because especially now they're both owned like by Cedar Fair / Six Flags now. So
they're technically in the same family, and
sure.
Knott's has that great ghost town, and that's awesome, but once you're out of that area, it becomes very amusement parky. And so that's kind of the thing there. I think that once you're out of the ghost town, it gets a little amusement parky. So it's interesting. Now, Ebba, in terms of like other parks, like I've never been to Legoland. You've obviously been to Legoland.
Yes.
How does that match up? Because I think it's a little geared towards more of a younger demo, but what would you say with that?
Right. So there is, I am and me and OG are trying to plan for a video to talk about Legoland because I went there for my brother's birthday. We did a whole birthday weekend for him a few weeks ago. So definitely we'll dive more into that. But for this, I will say it is a theme park, right? But again, it's not on Disney's level. It's not on Universal's level. Although I will say, I won't say it here, but what it is, but Legoland, the employees there are not called employees. So kind of like how Disneyland doesn't call their cast members employees. At Legoland, it's the same thing. They don't call them employees there.
I like that.
It's very much trying to be immersed in the Legoland kind of city, I guess you could say, and you're trying to make magic for the kids and whatnot. Very much Lego immersed. So it's again about being immersed into whatever world the theme park is building for you. It is geared more towards kids, of course. But I mean, heck, even when we went, me and my wife, we had a blast. we had fun there. It was actually really fun. But the value for that, right? Like their fast pass type of system, which is called Reserve and Ride, is expensive, more so than Disney. I was surprised. Wow. I was like, whoa, okay.
And that might actually be a good thing though, because if it's kind of like Universal, like the Express Pass is more expensive. So, but when you do buy it, there's less people in the system. So it's actually express,
Well, exactly. But here's the thing: their parking is the same as Disney Universal. It's $35.
Oh, that's high.
Yeah, so so you figure all these theme parks are charging theme park pricing, but then it's like again the subjectivity value is like, okay, is this worth the money? By the same time though, is I probably have had more fun at Legoland honestly than I did at Knott's Berry Farm when I went like a long time ago because there was more stuff I could do.
And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, because we're having this conversation and like for me, I'm biased towards Disney and everyone has their biases. But if you're a coaster fanatic, Disney's probably last on the list, like, so it all depends on what's your thing, so if you're a big coaster junkie, you're putting Knott's and Six Flags way above Disney.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it really just comes down to your own personal kind of value system or your subjectivity, Go ahead.
Right. sorry, I was gonna say, and also too, it's all about how the people who work there are making the guest experience great, and they're making your experience great, right? Like you go to Six Flags, let me use Six Flags and probably SeaWorld in this too, because SeaWorld, yeah, um, their guest experience isn't all that great. Okay, like they're just there just to have a job, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas at these other theme parks, it's really about making the guests like magical experience, right? Or making sure their vacation is fantastic. Because, like I said, before I started, for people who don't know, I work at Legoland. Um, before I started, I didn't know that there was a huge difference between customer service and guest service in a theme park. I learned that my first day working there, the
Wow.
difference. And there's a difference. And some of these other theme parks and amusement parks don't have that, and that's a big part of what makes your theme park great and what you want to go to, right? So I think that with Legoland, yeah, while it's more geared towards kids, it is a themed environment. Especially for the kids, they want to be immersed in the Lego sets and whatnot. Or if you're an adult and you love Lego, right? I mean, there's that too. So yeah, I would say for me, Universal and maybe a little bit of a Legoland. There's that more of that theming, being in the world aspect than Knott's, Six Flags, SeaWorld. Uh, but yeah, I just thought that was very interesting. The idea that what people thought of as a alternative value, right? Because like, okay, what's really alternative? Like to me, Six Flags wouldn't be a alternative to Disneyland. You know what I mean?
No, no, it's not. It's not. So it all depends on what you're looking for to get out of the experience at the end of the day.
Right.
And if you're looking for high theming, a lot of immersion, a lot of these regional kind of parks are not going to do it for you. They're not going to do it for you. And it's like, and I say it all the time too. It's like, people say, well, Knott's is cheaper. Well, it is cheaper, but for someone like me, then this is my personal kind of opinion or whatever. But for someone like me who doesn't go on a lot of these fast, crazy rides, even though it's cheaper, is it still worth what it is? Because it's an hour away from me. I can only go on like 3 rides. I'm way too tall for like a lot of Camp Snoopy stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I just like, so it's like, okay, so I can go on like 3 rides, and okay, the food is good. I mean, absolutely. But I mean, I'm in LA. I mean, I can get great food anywhere, really. I mean, we got like the biggest melting pot in the world. We got food, Mexican, Thai, whatever I want. In my backyard. So it's like, yeah, it has great food. Yeah, there's a handful of rides, and the ghost town is really well themed. But does that equate to worth it for me for the pricing of what they? Not really. I mean, it's kind of like I'm not really getting a whole lot out of that experience. You know what I'm saying? I mean, for what I'm getting out of it. Now, if I was into the big rides and all that, oh yeah, it's very much worth it. You know what I'm saying? So it just kind of depends on where you kind of stand with it,
Right. Or also too, like even let's say if you are into those, but you're looking for attractions, like let's talk about rides, right? If you're looking for rides that are more intricate, more evolved, more technologically advanced, right? Because these rides put you into the story, and this is why I am an atmosphere person, but OG, as you know, I'm a ride person, right? OG, like OG, if I'm going to the parks with you, I'm getting your ass on some rides.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
So, but the way I've always explained it, especially to George, I've always said I love rides because I love to feel like I'm going through the story with the characters. Right.
Yeah.
That's why I like it. But what makes Disney unique, and now with Universal coming up as well, like like the Wizard World of Harry Potter and stuff like that, is the complex ride systems that they use to put you into that journey. It's not just some coaster, not just some flippy doo ride, right? You're actually being taken on an experience in some form from what it would be like in that world, right? And that's what I love what they do, and that's where the really the magic of the attractions are. And so that's what I want to see more of. And so on that aspect, I'm like, okay, Six Flags, not even SeaWorld, they're having just these big coasters, which I'm sure are fun for a lot of people, but I want to see more in-depth stuff.
Yeah. Well, one of the issues that I haven't been to SeaWorld for about a decade. Okay. But the last time I was there was in 2014. It was okay. My only issue with SeaWorld is I think like I think that okay. I think that like there around I think it was around 2014, maybe a little bit before that. There was a lot of conversations around SeaWorld with the captivity of the animals with
Yeah.
that documentary Blackfish, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. As a kid, I never really thought about it, right? You don't think about that stuff like, oh, I'm just watching Shamu, you know? It's like, okay. But as I got older and like when I last time I went, I think it was like in 2014, 2015, I was sitting there watching like the Shamu show and I felt really bad. I felt like, you know, like here's this giant animal in like what amounts to like a basically a swimming pool for this thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not even that big. I felt it kind of brought me down, dude. I gotta be honest. Like, look, a lot of the SeaWorld animals, I'm not like totally anti-zoo or whatever, you know, like the otters, you can build a thing for them that they can have like a lot of room to go and do their thing, or the penguins, you know, I mean, a lot of room to kind of play and explore, or even the dolphins, you know. But those big animals, those killer whales, the orcas, and you put them, you're not going to build anything big enough for that thing, you know, realistically, you know. So, you know, it just made me feel kind of shitty watching them. I don't know why. Like, I never felt that way as a kid, but man, I felt so guilty watching it. But like, here's the thing: it's like, to give SeaWorld some credit, I think they are getting rid of the orca shows, or like they're not doing it anymore.
So it's still there, but not as an entertainment show. It's there as like an educational show. So
Gotcha.
how they present it is they still do tricks per se, but the tricks are more so real life movements that they do. So they have the orcas demonstrate how they balance up to kind of stalk like prey out of the water, to see like how they jump to flip animals in the air, kind of like their natural movement in the ocean. So that's what they have them demonstrate in the water. Now, the thing is that they cannot release them back into the wild because they would die, because they've been bred in captivity. So unfortunately, until really all the orcas die off, they're still going to be there. And then I think after that, because seriously, SeaWorld has a long way to go. Once they're all like dead, unfortunately, I think they should take down the tank and then build more attractions in that area. Because right now, their latest coaster is actually Arctic Rescue. It's like kind of like a it's a coaster that's like a snowmobile. It has like 5 launch pads, but super low to the ground. The one before that was the Emperor, a huge hanging coaster where you, whoosh, so they're building more coasters. The other problem that SeaWorld has, though, is that because they're by the coast, like Legoland is, anytime they want to build something new, they have to get approval from the Coastal Commission.
Oh,
And that's like more steps because of the height requirement and all this stuff. So I think that SeaWorld needs to invest in more rides, which they are doing, but I think they also should invest in more. Probably try to make some really cool like ocean or sea dark rides. That'd be
Yeah.
really dope. You know what I
that'd be
mean?
dope. That'd be dope. What conductor? Have you been to SeaWorld in a while?
Back in 2005.
Oh, okay. It's been a long time, long time. And how old were you at that time? Were you probably like 5, huh?
Oh, I was probably like 12, 13.
Wow.
So, yeah, ancient times for me. I can't even talk about SeaWorld because I have no clue what's going on there besides what Webba said. But one thing I do want to bring up comparison-wise between all these theme parks. So obviously there's comparison between Disneyland and Universal. Obviously there's comparisons between Knott's Berry Farm and Six Flags. Then you got Legoland and SeaWorld, right?
Mhm.
The thing that I wanted to point out to bring up is it also depends on the theme parks doing during the seasons. So, like, what I mean during the seasons, like, I know the theme parks, some of them go harder than others, like with Christmas, with Halloween, with stuff like that. So OG, like you said, you live an hour away from Knott's Berry Farm, and most of the year you don't want to travel all the way down there to go on 3 attractions.
Right, exactly.
But you and the wife or whatever might say, hey, you know what? I've never done Merry Farm before at Knott's Berry Farm. I want to do it. I've seen all this hype for years about it. It looks completely fun. The whole ghost town everywhere is decorated for Christmas. It looks absolutely amazing. I want to do it. So it also there's a comparison during the seasons. So
True.
some theme parks might get more busier than others. It really just honestly depends.
It does, and
Yeah.
Knott's and Universal are kind of like, in my opinion, like the kings of Halloween. At least out here in California, it seems like it. Those are the kings of Halloween. I know Disney does a pretty decent, with Oogie Boogie Bash, but I still think that while that's Oogie Boogie Bash is very popular, I still think Universal and Knott's are really they kind of own that particular holiday.
Yeah. And I think it's because OG, right? I think it's because the reason why Oogie Boogie is also popular is because one, everybody loves Oogie Boogie, right? I mean, who doesn't? But at the same time, though, it's Disney, right? So again, you already have the brand recognition, the IP, the draw to it, right? But here's the thing, though. I've seen a lot of people really complaining, especially this year, and about like how past years, like it's always the same thing, pretty much.
Oh yeah,
year after year. Whereas not especially Universal and Conductor. Me and you talked about this on your video last time, with even with Six Flags, with Fright Fest. They're always having new houses, new mazes, new scare zones, whatever, or new kind of events going on within that Halloween event. So it's always new stuff being brought to the table. Sometimes it's probably like the same stuff, but with Disney, it's always the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing, and no one wants to pay a expensive, special event ticket for something they saw 3 years ago.
exactly.
That's the only downfall I give to Disney. But besides that, everything else is great. It's just that one thing. If they would change it up, add new characters, bring extinct characters back out of the underground and bring them back to life, I would say, hey, I'd buy a ticket. But when they're showing the exact same thing, it's just like, okay, well, I don't really feel like paying $200 and some for something I saw 3 years ago. Why?
Yeah.
Well, and also too, I also want to say this, and OG and Conductor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Disney, while they are a premium theme park, and I love Disney, right? I feel like with any of their special events, they're the most stingiest with what they give out in their event. And what I mean by complimentary stuff. So for example, when me and Conductor were at the Universal annual pass holder party thing, right? Like they were giving out like free little sodas and stuff like that. Disney wouldn't even never do that. I'd never seen Disney do that, and that was one of my complaints with the After Dark events was, okay, we paid like $100 and something per ticket, right? For like 4 hours. You got a lanyard, which my Valentine's one, like the sweets are hard that it fell off because it was cheap. And then they wouldn't even give you like a free little cookie or something like that. It's like give some little goodies to like the people who are coming to these special events.
That's a good point. I've only been to Oogie Boogie Bash once.
Yeah.
And it was kind of an unusual circumstances. A relative of mine invited the Italiano and I to go to Boogie Bash, but she had it set up with like a tour guide, right? So she's like a 33 member or whatever. So she had us all set up with like a tour guide, right? So she ended up not going, but the Italiano and I did. Here's the thing though, is like, cause we went with the tour guide and all that, like we did get a lot of what seems like free shit. I mean, I don't know what the normal is for Oogie Boogie, but we got like a huge bag of candy.
Yeah.
So
no,
that's why
you don't get that. So that was only because you were part of the Club 33, tour guide.
Yeah,
Sorry,
no, I was like that when you go. So that's why Oogie Boogie was my favorite, like late night party, was because so I don't know if it was like a free bag of candy that you got, but you could go on the trick or treat trails as many times as you want and get candy and things. So that was cool. I liked that a lot. That was dope. I was like, okay, this is cool. It's worth it, right?
Right. So you do get candy that you just have to go through the trails.
Yeah. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, they just gave it to us, so I don't know if it was like we didn't have to do the trail thing, but if you get it through the trails, that's cool too. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah. So that was cool. Like you have the parade. You have the the trails. You see all the cool villains and stuff like that. I thought it was really cool. Yeah. Monsters After Dark, I think what it's called, right? In the Guardians ride,
right,
or something. All the rides are open, so it was really cool. I thought that was the most worth it event. But would I go back again? Unless I'm going with you guys or something, probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, but Conductor, you are right though. Every theme park does have its own value and its own alternative to what they want, right? Like, hey, for example, I think a good alternative conductor would be not Scary Farm and Universal Halloween Horror Nights.
Exactly. That's very competitive. I would agree with
Mhm.
you on that. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. It's interesting. It's an interesting point you bring up, conductor, with that, with the seasons, because that does change the equation, though.
Yeah.
When you start to insert that into it.
Yeah.
The regular time of the year and then the holidays. And even from season to season, because Halloween, Disney sort of left out of it a little bit. But then Christmas is like Disney's like the king, you know? So it's like for Christmas time, I think it's more about Disney and like, well, I was going to say Disney and Knott's, but Universal has been stepping it up. But I still think Knott's Merry Farm, from what I've seen, is a lot more involved than Universal.
You know, it's so funny. So at this moment, I would agree with you. I know with Super Nintendo World in Japan, since they opened the land out there, which was the first Super Nintendo World that got brought to life in the Universal Park and Experiences company, after their first anniversary of that land, they started decorating the land for Christmas. So I think, you know, I know Hogsmeade for Universal, they go not as hard, but they do decorate for Christmas. They have the wreaths up. They have the lights up. They do some special stuff, not crazy where you have to go run down there to go look at it. But I think like our Super Nintendo World, if we got a Christmas overlay, I think I would just up the ante for Universal going against Disney. And again, we've talked about it on this channel many times before. Universal, as much as they want to expand out here in Hollywood, they'll never be as big as Disney. I don't care what the situation is. Even if they removed all the sound stages on the lower lot, it would come close, but it wouldn't be as big as Disneyland. Disneyland is going to be the OG Godfather for what seems like forever, especially with Disneyland Forward coming. So,
yeah, because at least in Southern California, they're not. Universal's not going to come close to that, because Disneyland right now is a 2-park resort, right?
Yeah.
Likely in the next 20 years or whatever it is, probably a third park will come online. You know, probably Toy Story lot. So it's likely going to kind of shake out to be like a 3-park resort. Universal would be very lucky to even get one big park. You know what I'm saying? They're very landlocked, and it's situated in an awkward way too, with the hill and everything.
Man,
you know. Go ahead, Webba.
Sorry, OG. I was gonna say, man, it makes me so sad, because here's the thing, right? So again, I didn't start going to Universal until this year with these sexy gentlemen over here.
Yeah.
And it just, when you showed me the amount of land that golf course had, dude, and I'm like, oh my god, because I had a lot of fun at Universal, and I was like, this is the kind of stuff I want to see from Universal. Of course, like, you know, more like everybody rides, but I had a blaster with everything that they had. You know, Jurassic World, Harry Potter. You know, it's like very, very fun. It's like I want to see, and with Universal on the up and up, I would love to see that here in California. You know, more of that expansion here. But it's like how much can you really take out to put in? You know?
It's tough. They could probably finagle stuff, and we've talked about a conductor. They'll finagle stuff and get more in there for sure. But it is going to be hard. You know, that golf course, you could build a whole park there probably. That thing is freaking massive. You know, but I don't think they're ever going to get it. I think it's a golf course for the elites. You know what I'm saying? A lot of like the wealthy.
That special access, OG?
Yeah, that special access, dude. That special access. Shh, don't say anything. I'm gonna go golfing this weekend, Eva. You know what I'm saying? Me and Bob Iger and Dana Walden.
Add Bob to that too while you're at it.
Yeah, exactly. But let's dip into our... go ahead. I'm sorry.
One thing I was gonna say is the future is bright for Hollywood.
Absolutely.
As we do see Epic Universe opening in 2025, they just released what their new Harry Potter land's going to look like, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way, which is still on the table for Hollywood. That is still on the table as far as I know. That land coming to Hollywood in some aspect.
The Ministry of Magic stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That whole land. And the thing
Wow.
is, I think Universal's focus at this moment is finishing Epic Universe. Obviously, they broke ground with the Texas park that they're building for everybody, but it seems like it's going to be like a Legoland for kids, basically. Then they're finalizing the deal in the UK, but I think once Epic Universe is finished, opened, and it's running for the general public, I think Universal Hollywood is going to get a jump start, and I think a lot of attention is going to be put back on that park.
Actually, sorry, G. If I can just actually put one more on top of that from your brother, is this. I think really all West Coast theme parks are gonna be getting a lot of attention. I say that because Disneyland Forward has been approved. Hollywood is in good condition to start adding new stuff like the coaster we're getting, right? And hotels, future expansion. SeaWorld just opened up the new entrance. They're going to be getting a new new aquarium jellyfish thing, I think, or something somewhere. They're planning to add more coasters, I believe. And then now you have the Six Flags and Cedar Fair merger now for Knott's and for Six Flags basically. And then so that could be a whole huge can of worms for, in a good way, for those parks. And on top of that, now you have Legoland, which we'll talk about that in that video when we eventually do it. We get all the guys back together. Is that there's also plans for expansion with them. So I think all our California parks are in good hands of being on the up and up for expansions.
Yeah, exactly. You hear that, everybody? You hear that, Floridians? West Coast is rising.
That fuck.
There we go, everybody. All right, let's dive into our next topic, which is Webba, your last experience. You hung out with the one and only Kiki and Luca. Friend of the channel, Kiki and Luca. So you and Kiki and Luca, you guys hung out at Disneyland Resort, and you noticed a few things. We'll start off with Haunted Mansion virtual queue. What did you notice, sir?
Yes, so absolutely. So first of all, I just want to give a big shout out to Kiki and Luca. Thank you so much for the hangout, my friend. It was absolutely amazing. We got to do it again. But yeah, so we were there just this past Wednesday, and so for virtual queue, right? Everybody, you all know that I've been complaining about virtual queue. Everybody's heard of me, complain and whine about virtual queue, how much it sucks, right? But I gotta say, I don't know what they did different about this virtual queue for Haunted Mansion. Okay, I got to the park, to the parking lot, around 3:20. Got to the park around maybe 3:50 or so. Around 4:00, 4:10. Because Kiki and Luca told me to look for a virtual queue. I was like, well, why? It's probably sold out by now, right? Because usually it is. For any virtual queue, it's always been boom. Once it hits for that time, it's gone. Well, we're waiting inside in Pinocchio, and I was able to get in line for virtual queues. I was able to get a boarding group. And I was like, whoa, okay. Now it wasn't until 9:00 in the evening, right? Yeah. But I was still able to get in a group, which I was surprised. So then, during that night, right, I get in line literally at 9:10 before my 9:12 cutoff time. And then so I get in there, and you know how with virtual queues, right? They do it because they're trying to control the flow of crowds.
Right.
Dude, literally in the stretcher room, there was probably 10 to maybe 15 people. That was it. I literally walked. I showed them my my virtual queue. We walked up the stairs in the front into the mansion, and it was just a small crowd of people, and there was barely anybody else coming in. I was like, this is weird. We'll go in, and it was literally a walk on. Walked right onto the ride. No waiting at all. It was weird, dude.
That's weird. So for the queue area, because they're still working on it, it's all dug up still, a lot of it.
Yeah,
it's just that front little courtyard with the fake grass and all that. Is that the only part that's really open? They put you right into the mansion from there?
Right. So you know how when you walk through the gates of the mansion, right, and you go up. Now the hearse has been moved from that corner to the right side by the walkway where you're walking on, and as you're turning that corner, that kind of bank facing the mansion, and how the walkway goes to the left into the kind of graveyard area,
right?
That's all boarded off. So they put you straight up the stairs on the mansion into the mansion itself.
Now, would you say the hearse being moved over there filled in some dead space?
Haunted Mansion is
What I saw them using it for was I think like for like a disability handicap access. I believe still like it looked like there was more room there. I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, it was really weird because I was surprised of how little people were there for virtual queue. And then Kiki and Luca brought up this point. He's like, maybe a lot of people don't know this is a thing.
That's possible.
Because it was weird. Conductor, you want to?
Oh no! I wanted you to finish because I actually have the David from Fresh Baked. He did a video today of going into the Haunted Mansion and showing the queue and kind of explaining it. But I wanted you to finish,
Okay?
Because I want to share the screen so we can kind of watch it, review it, and think, talk about it for a minute.
Yeah.
I can tell you where I was at and stuff like that. But yeah, it was the quickest virtual queue into a ride I've ever been on, dude. It was weird. I was like, why is there not a lot of people here? You would think a lot of people would jump on this to get onto the ride. But I think because you have to scroll down to virtual queue, hit like the virtual queue button, and then to find the Haunted Mansion to join the virtual queue in there.
A lot of normies aren't tapped in like that. They probably don't know. That's fascinating.
And then I asked Kiki Luca, I was like, do you think Disney's doing that on purpose? Like not really promoting that? Because I know I've seen it on social media where they're saying it, but I don't think it's getting through to the normies enough to where a lot of people are utilizing it.
That's fascinating. And real quick, I have one question for you, Webba. And then if you want to share your screen, Conductor, I'll go ahead and pull that up. But like, in terms of the mansion itself, once you got on the ride, were there any real noticeable changes, or was it pretty much the same old Haunted Mansion that we usually?
From what I can remember, because it's been like a year or so since we've been on it. From what I can remember was, at least for changes, it looked like so I don't know what the character's called, but like the orange snake with like the blue stripes on it from the movie, where it has like the names of lists coming out of its mouth. That moved from the left corner of the attic a little bit closer to further, like closer on the left side, and then in that section where it used to be are two Jack in the Box heads. One's a pumpkin, and then one is a Jack Skellington face, where like he has like his like scary screaming face.
Yeah,
so two of those there, and then freaking what do you call it? Hatbox Ghost wasn't working. Like all you always saw was like the plastic like outlook, like the outline of the face there. It was weird.
Oh, that's weird.
I will say though, sorry, OG, I will say in the graveyard scene, it looks like they refurbished the audio animatronics because they looked really smooth. Their movements were very fluid.
Good. Interesting. Go ahead, Conductor, share your screen and we'll play that. I'm very curious.
Let's do it.
Let's rock and roll, boys. And I won't play the sound.
Yeah, I'm going to mute the sound right now, actually. Let me do that.
Perfect.
Before we get going here.
Oh,
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, it's muted.
There we go. All right, so this is interesting. So this is walking up to it. And this is courtesy of Fresh Baked.
Fresh Baked.
Okay.
So as you can see, the hearse is right there on the right side.
Interesting. Oh, this is a before and after. Okay.
Yeah, he's just kind of doing a little clip before he actually gets started.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's on the other side now. It was on the
so right here is where
Oh yeah. And you see underneath Jack, that's it Krusty the Clown from Simpsons?
Yep. It's a big controversy because I was actually going to bring that up. On Twitter, Disney posted, or a representative from Disney posted that they actually covered the boxes up with like gift wrap or something, so you can't see those faces on the boxes anymore because of the clown.
Yeah, because that's from Simpsons, and the box next to it, is that from Inside Out?
Yes.
I could have sworn those were there when I went on it, but hey, you know what? I'll try to check it out again because I'm going again on Wednesday. So
fascinating. I wonder why they covered them up though.
I don't know. It's really odd. So
I mean, they own those properties, so they shouldn't have any issue with it. That's really oh, you know what though? It just dawned on me. I don't know about the Inside Out character.
Yeah.
Krusty the Clown, Universal has the theme park rights to The Simpsons.
Yes.
Right now. It might be something tied to that. Maybe Disney they They fucked up. They put it in there, and then maybe they can't legally. They can't have anything representative of the Simpsons.
Like,
No,
whoops.
Whoopsies.
until not until the not until 2028, from what I heard.
Yeah, that's fast. I bet you it was something like that. But I don't know why they would cover the Inside Out guy though. That's weird. It's really weird.
You would think they wouldn't because that's a Disney property. So
yeah.
You would think they wouldn't do that. It would be the other one which would be the problem.
Right, exactly. Okay, so there's a lot more room. So the one on the bottom right is the new queue.
New one, yeah.
It looks way more roomy.
Oh, without a doubt. And David, obviously I can't play the sound, but David was saying in this video that they are going to have the lightning lane where it was in the front entrance where that arch is.
Right.
They moved the lightning lane. They moved it. So it's no longer going to be in the front. So it's no longer going to be a pinch point.
Interesting. And that's the fountain that used to be over there by the railroad station. Now it's a planter, which I know people are mad about that, but at least they saved it. It's good to at least have it, you know?
Without a doubt.
And it seems like Disney's getting rid of a lot of the fountains. And I'm sure it's because of cost saving with, see, there was a fountain when it was they moved it. I'm sure, getting rid of these fountains, and they're also getting rid of them over at Downtown Disney is a cost saving thing. It's also probably a water conservation thing as well. In California, we do struggle with the drought pretty often here. So,
but I wonder for fountains in Downtown Disney if that's to alleviate more walking space.
It could be that too. Absolutely. And some of those fountains, they're redoing Downtown Disney, and they're kind of getting rid of that garden motif. Yeah. And the fountains have, they all look like leaves and flowers. It looks kind of dated and out of place now with this new mid-century stuff kind of moving in. So I could see why they're getting rid of it.
Yeah. And also I'm also thinking because that fountain is so close to the Tortilla Joe's location. If that's going to go behind walls and be completely demoed to the ground, they need that space.
That's true. Yeah, that's what we're hearing. They're going to bulldoze Tortilla Joe's and put something else in there. And you get rid of that fountain, that's a sizable area. You could probably fit 2 buildings there if you really wanted to,
Oh, so from what I heard, they are actually going to have either 2 or 3 restaurants in that space.
Fascinating. That makes sense.
So if you guys notice on the right side of the new queue, it looks like, I'm not sure if that's an entryway for handicap, but you see people walking out from that right side at the beginning of the video.
So David was saying that's the exit point for handicap for stuff like that. I think the middle is going to be lightning lane. And lightning lane, like I was talking about, David explains in this video, right at the entrance of the mansion, that's where lightning lane is. And once you scan in, you walk right into the stretching room. You're right there. You don't have to go through the extended queue, any of that. You go right there.
Well, that makes more sense because you bypass. It's supposed to be lightning lane, so you bypass the entire left side. Just go straight up.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if you guys notice too, from the old Haunted Mansion queue to the new one, the poles with the chains are gone. They put permanent railing in the queue, so it makes it updated.
Yeah, because there's issues with a lot of the chain link. A lot of times people play with those and try to sit on them, and then they come undone, and people just get they don't follow the rules. I'm sure people have gotten hurt on those too.
Yeah, well,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say what one person ruins for everybody, everyone suffers.
No, exactly. What say you, Webba? Oh, go ahead, conductor.
Oh, no. I was just going to say also, he's pointing out in the video that they redid the complete flooring as well. The tile as well. Yeah,
that looks really, really good, actually. I really like that.
And then here's the lightning lane right here. So they moved that.
Oh, I'm very interested. Yeah, see, because when I went on it, of course, it was dark. So I couldn't really see a lot of the detail at nighttime when it's pitch black out here. But oh yeah, because right there the lightning lane just goes straight up.
There's the scanners. Yeah, that's interesting. So they're no longer out there.
No, and that was one of the biggest problems, because you can see here in the video it just
Right.
caused so much congestion, and you can't have that anymore. You just can't.
That's smart.
And see, this is what we were talking about. And Hey Bricky was talking about this in one of his recent videos too. Disney is reworking this whole side of the park. I know right now it's a pain in the ass for a lot of fans. A lot of stuff is under construction. It's closed off. But Disney sees an opportunity here to kind of reconfigure everything in this area. And a lot of that, reasoning behind that is because whatever Disneyland Forward expansion goes into that Stitch parking lot, you're going to go through this area to get to that expansion area. So they're trying to reconfigure things to make it more accessible, so it's an easier route. Go ahead, Webba.
Yeah, and on top of that, which flows into our next topic in a little bit, but this is again Disney finding a way, and very well, mind you, I think, doing a good job of adding more ways to fit more people into space, right? So as we always talked about how Disney, especially at Disneyland, they had to be very creative in the way how they utilize the space that they have to fit more guests in to have that capacity, right? So especially when Disneyland Forward, is finally up and going, you're gonna have more people in Disneyland. You're gonna need wider walkway paths, better structured walkway paths, so that way it's not a crowded, chaotic mess.
Yeah,
100%, 100%.
And how David is showing this video as well, when he was showing the old extended queue that's not behind construction walls. From what he's saying in this video, because I watched it today, so I can kind of talk about what he's talking about without playing the sound, obviously, is that they're getting rid of that lightning lane area where the extended queue for general admission is. So between the archway of the entrance and where those scanners are, that's how much capacity they're going to use for lightning lane. So that's going to help with the lightning lane problem, because I know a lot of these attractions at Disney, especially, when it comes to Disney or any other theme park that offers some type of express line, obviously these theme parks want to cater to the express people because they pay a little bit extra, but sometimes it gets a little too ridiculous where the general admission line backs up so much, and they keep allowing the lightning lane, the express lane, to keep going forward and adding more people and letting them go and not relieving the general admission. So I'm kind of glad in a way they shortened the lightning lane area for this.
Well, I want to ask too, right? Because speaking of lightning lane, because that's a whole nother mess, right?
Yeah, of course.
I will say, I know that Universal does a really good job with theirs, so kudos to them. I will say though, even though I know a lot of people, including myself, right, complain and moan about lightning lane, about how terrible it makes a standby queue, which it does, and I've used lightning lane before fast pass because I want to get on lane quicker, but the system is flawed.
Yeah.
But when you go to other theme parks, okay, back to SeaWorld, Knott's Berry Farm, and I'll throw it in there, Legoland, and I'll get into that when we do our video, OG. But Disneyland, along with Universal, are their kings at the moment of ride operations and queue capacity efficiency. Go ahead, OG.
Oh no, I absolutely agree. Like when we went to Knott's back in October, and I think I went back in November again. The operations is horrible over there at Knott's. The lines aren't even that long, and it takes forever for them to get through anything over there. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. Even the food counter service stuff.
Oh,
it's like an attraction. I mean, it takes forever over there at Knott's. So you're right. I think Disney and Universal right now are killing it, at least more so with operations than Knott's. Absolutely.
Right, and I just want to get into that bit real quick, because kind of my little tangent here, but the things like that, a lot of normies go to, whether it's a theme park, amusement park, right? They want to go on the rides, the rides are a huge factor in people's experience, right? Like, oh, I don't want to wait in line all day, or I want to hit X amount of rides or these rides per day, right? Well, if that's a huge factor, why isn't your ride operations more up to par? Why does it take so long for you to load and unload people, dispatch vehicles, whatnot? Like, I get it, there's certain circumstances that come up, but it shouldn't be that difficult. I'm sorry,
100%.
it shouldn't.
You're right. And right here, they're showing that the hanging man, there was rumors that they were going to get rid of it because of it's problematic, right? I think we even reported on it like a month or so ago. The hanging man is still there. They did not get rid of it. So I'm assuming when Haunted Mansion Holiday goes away and it becomes the regular mansion, you'll be able to see it much more clearly. But he, I believe it is a he, is still there. So they did not get rid of it because of woke or anything like that. It's still there. So fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. So
we'll see. I think overall this is pretty interesting. Go ahead, Web. I'm sorry.
Me? Oh no, it was him.
Oh, I'm sorry, conductor. Go ahead, brother.
I was gonna say, it's a great thing that they are retrofitting that side of the park. As we've seen from David from Fresh Baked, the guy is the absolute GOAT when it comes to Disneyland and construction updates. He's on top. Yeah. Him and Scott Goosen are the absolute GOAT when it comes to that. But David has been, on top of Tiana's because all of Critter Country is shut down. You can't get near it. You can't even go into the Hungry Bear. That's closed off as well. Their permits filed for the kitchen for the Hungry Bear, which is now going to be the Hungry Bear Barbecue, I think. They're extending the kitchen to make it a bigger kitchen, which is great. All of Critter Country, they ripped all the cement out everywhere. They were running conduit like crazy. I can't even imagine how much conduit is under the ground right now. We speculated, and I talked about it on your show, OG, with you and George, I think a couple shows ago, where I was mentioning that they are running all that conduit for possible Disneyland Forward expansion, which makes absolute sense.
Interesting. Yeah, there's something going on with it. They are really ripping the hell out of that whole area. It's insane how much work is going on back there.
Actually, when me, Kiki, and Luca went on, because we went on the Mark Twain, and we were on the side of the boat where you could see Splash Mountain and Haunted Mansion and stuff. There's still little mini tractors sitting like in the walkway paths and stuff like that.
Right.
It's just pretty dope. And then we even saw so where the main queue line for Splash Mountain, it kind of goes down like the little hill right there on the side of the mountain. Like even parts on the bottom that were torn off still.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. Absolutely crazy. I'm very curious how that whole area turns out. Now, Ebba,
I want to bring one more thing.
Sure.
The Walt Disney Disney World, the Rise of the Resistance. It just got reported either today or yesterday that their ride out there, they are getting rid of single rider.
Why?
I don't know. And it's got me concerned, since our Rise of the Resistance out here is so popular still. I don't know how Walt Disney World's version is, but ours is so crazy popular. I don't see why they are deciding to get rid of the single rider. I don't understand that.
I have a theory. And I could be wrong. This is just OG's theory. So they're getting rid of it at Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, do we have single rider for it? I haven't.
No.
We don't? I thought
we don't have single rider yet?
Oh, I mean, not that I know, because if I knew it, I would be going on it. Because I utilize all the single riders, but I haven't seen any single riders for it.
Personally. Okay, my only theory with single rider and just Disney World in general is Disney World is very much a tourist location.
Sure.
Very few. I mean, they have the annual pass population, but not like we do.
No.
I'm assuming there's probably less single riders in that environment because of the nature of that resort being kind of more tourist driven. Again, this is just total speculation on my part. I could be completely wrong, but that's just my guess. Out here, you do single rider here in California, you would probably, it would do very well. But honestly, I haven't tried. I don't know. I don't even know if we have it out here for single rider for Rise. I don't know. I haven't gone on that ride in a little while, so.
Well, when I go again, which is next week, I'll for sure check and let you guys know. Because I haven't checked just because I'm like, well, I knew it was at Walt Disney World, but I didn't see anything about it being at Disneyland, so I just never bothered to check. I didn't check this time, but I'll check on my next trip when I go out there. But if they had it here, I would love it. I think more attractions need single rider. I think they might, because when you look at Space Mountain, me and Kiki looking on Space Mountain single rider, it was like three like lines deep in single rider, dude. And yeah, but it goes pretty quick. But I think rides like Guardians could use single rider. Like if they're really trying to maximize capacity, which we're gonna get to, OG.
Yeah.
You know, I think they should definitely start utilizing that, because it's a waste for one person to stand in a line when there's empty seats going by.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Well, speaking of capacity,
yes,
you noticed a little something over there last time you went. What did you notice, Webba?
Yes. So what I pointed out to Kiki and Luca. Oh, actually, we both noticed it. So we were in Fantasyland. We went on Snow White and Pinocchio, right? We went on Pinocchio first, and then Snow White. But when we went on Pinocchio, I thought this was very interesting, right? My entire life going to Disneyland, you know, whether it's by myself or me and my mom or me and a friend, whatever, right? Because the cars are so small, the vehicles, it's like your own personal vehicle, right? Like you get on, even one person, okay, that's your vehicle, bye-bye, you know? And now, when we went on both on Pinocchio and Snow White, they sat us with another group of people. So we both sat in the front, and then another group, whether it was 2 or 3, depending on like the family size, they sat behind us. And I was like, that's interesting. I've seen it happen before, but very rarely when like it's like people who aren't from here and they just kind of follow you into the vehicle without like knowing, right? Which I mean, I don't care. It's a theme park. I don't care being close to other people. Like, I don't care, you know. But I find that interesting because it's like I feel like they're trying to maximize the vehicle space. Because if you think about it, right, that's a whole nother row that's just empty and no one's using.
Exactly.
That's like if me, you, and conductor went on Indiana Jones and they're like, okay, that's your vehicle, you know, bye. You know, it's like, well, there's still like 8 other seats available on this thing.
You might as well use them. Might as well use them, and you can cycle people through a lot faster. I think it's a good idea. Absolutely. What say you, conductor? What do you think about that?
So, you know, I agree with both of you. I think and this goes without saying with all theme parks, because I've seen it myself. I've seen it with, you know, Universal as well. You know, they'll have like, for example, the Mummy ride. Okay, so the Mummy ride has a row of 4 seats, and I've seen it where they've only had 2 people per row. I'm like, wait a second, what?
Really?
What the hell's going on? There's 4 seats per row. Why don't you have 4 people? The line's backing up.
Right.
No, I feel bad for all the other people I got on, but I feel bad for everyone else. And I've seen that at Disneyland too. When the last time I was a Magic Key holder and I was going to Disneyland a lot, I've seen that happen on, what would be a good ride? I've seen it on Indiana. I've seen it on Rise of the Resistance. I saw it on Splash Mountain before it closed. I've seen it on plenty of rides. I don't know if it's just the cast members just under stress, under just frustration, or what it could be. But I think efficient efforts need to be improved on that, because when you have rides that have unnormal wait times and you're only allowing a partial group to go on the ride vehicle instead of the full capacity, it's almost like they're trying to revert back to COVID, because COVID was like that, where they would have, let's say like Splash Mountain, you would have 2 people per log if you're lucky. Most of the time it was only 1 person per log. Or you had Indiana Jones where you had maybe it can hold, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Webba, it can hold 16 people per ride vehicle or 12 or something like that. And they only have 4 or 5 people per Jeep.
Yeah, I think it's 12. There's 3 rows, 4 seats per row.
Okay, so 12.
Yeah.
So they were only allowing 3 or 4 people on the Jeep. Obviously, due to COVID, they were trying to do the 6 feet apart thing. And it kind of seems like they're still doing it. It's like, why? Why are you doing that? I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's weird. And also, like, another thing I noticed too, it wasn't on this trip that I noticed it. I noticed it on the last few trips I've been on this year.
Yeah.
Was at least in Snow White. When before you get to the last row, before going across like the brick layer to the loading station, at like the kind of handicap access point, there's a cast member who they ask you how many for your group.
Yeah.
Which either that's and I think that's a way for them to kind of control the line, I guess you could say, right? But I just found that interesting because because when we went on Pinocchio, I have to correct myself. I said that we had people sit behind us twice. No, on Pinocchio, we were in front of a group, and I think it was 3 of them. They went in the first row. Then me and Keegan Luca got told to go in the second row. We're like, okay, cool. I mean, as long as I get on, I don't really care. You know what I mean? So I get on, and then in Snow White, we were in front, and then people sat behind us. We're like, oh, okay, cool. But I thought that was very interesting because I'm thinking with this whole thing with Haunted Mansion, which they have to update their ADA compliance and whatnot, rework the queue. I'm thinking with all this kind of reworking and trying to figure out with like Lightning Lane, DAS, handicap, and then Disneyland Forward with like more capacity coming forward. I wonder if they're really trying to hammer down filling all available space, right? You hear that all the time. Please fill all available seats, all available space, right?
Yeah.
And I think they're really now trying to hammer that down. It's even more so on like the smaller rides where before it was fine to have just it as your own vehicle, but now they want everybody to fill butts in all capacity like seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there is a desire by Disney to sort of get this under control, which is a lot of a reason why, controversy or not, I mean, however people feel about DAS right now, I completely understand where people are coming from, but that whole situation, at least a part of it, was due to kind of getting this situation under control. A lot of people were abusing that system.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of people. Now, look, Disney's solution to it isn't the greatest, let's be honest, but reality is there were a lot of people abusing that system and that were using it that shouldn't be using it. So they're cleaning that up. Webba, what you're noticing with filling in these ride vehicles, not letting these vehicles go by with like 2 people in them. You know what I'm saying? It's all a very much an effort by Disney, I think, to sort of get this stuff running a little smoother. Right.
And then also another thing I noticed, it's not ride, but restaurant, I guess you could say. I don't know if this has been a thing, but this was my 3rd or 4th time going to Oga's because, by the way, I want to give a huge shout out to Kiki and Luca. He treated me to some food at Napa Rose and to Oga's. So big shout out to you, Kiki and Luca. Thank you so much, brother. But so we went to Oga's Cantina, right? And we got our own booth. Oh, this is dope, right? Our own booth. We're chilling, right? It's not even that crowded because it's during the fireworks, right? But then all of a sudden we get a family of like 5 that sit in our booth with us. And I was like, oh, okay. So we scoot all the way down. And I just never had like a random family come sit in like your spot with you.
No.
Yeah, I've been to Oga's a few times, but I've never actually sat in those booths before. So I can't speak on that.
Yeah.
I do know with Oga's, I recently went a couple of months ago with a buddy of mine, Sean. And those like, they're like tables and you stand by them.
Yes. Yeah.
Those we got like appetizers, we got a few drinks, this is a few months ago. And they did put another couple with us, but it wasn't a booth. It was a stand-up table thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we lucked out though, because actually they were dope. This couple was awesome. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool, I think, for a bar environment to kind of have that element there because it kind of like you kind of mingle You know what I'm saying?
It's a bar, like you know,
Yeah.
you go there to socialize and drink.
Exactly. You're single. You're mingling. There you go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
No, but it is. It's a bar. You kind of want to do that. So it works out in an environment like Oga's. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was happening back then. I don't know about the booth though. That's interesting that they put you in a booth with somebody else.
Yeah. Because first it's like they called us up. We sat in the booth first. We're there for about maybe like 5-6 minutes or so, and like we're like he's sitting right here. I'm sitting like in the middle, and all of a sudden this family of 5 comes walking up. I'm like, are they coming to our table? Because usually how I would think is at the booth, right, your own kind of table.
Sure.
That's your table now, right? No one's
Right.
coming to your table. But then they had to scoot all the way down, and that family of 5 sat there. Yeah, I didn't care. Like I'm like, okay, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was interesting because I'd never seen that before. At least I've
Yeah.
never experienced it. So
That is interesting. Now, I want to bring up one thing before we go, because conductor, we've talked about it before, but I haven't had Ebba on in a little while.
Sure.
We did the hoardingest attractions for the members with you. That video was out of control. Good. That was so funny, bro. So funny. But I want to get your opinion on, and I don't know if you saw him when you were down there on Wednesday, but Deadpool.
oh
Deadpool. Did you see him any of that stuff when you were down there?
no, I didn't go to DCA because we were just in Disneyland the entire day because
Okay.
I got there later. You know, Kiki Luka didn't have a park hopper, so we just stayed at Disneyland. But I don't know if I'll see him for a while because my next trip I'm going is not till after work, and I won't get there till like 7. So
Gotcha. Well, you've probably seen a lot of stuff online and stuff. What are your thoughts on what are your thoughts on him? Because there's been a lot of debate within the community. You know, like is it appropriate? Is it not appropriate? Where do you stand with it?
it's freaking awesome, dude. Like it is so cool. Like, and here's the I love like the little kind of innuendos, I guess you could say, he throws in there, but they're not overly raunchy. So I think the way the cast member who's portraying Deadpool, I think is doing a really good job.
It's kind of done. It reminds me a lot, actually, of like the '90s kind of Warner Brothers stuff. Like if you would watch like a show like Animaniacs,
Yeah.
there was a lot of adult innuendo in that show. But like if a kid was watching it, the kid has no idea, but the adult watching knows. You know what I'm saying? Like there was a clip of like Deadpool saying like, you know, whose mouse ears did I have to wear to get this job? I was on my knees,
yes.
on my knees begging, right?
Oh yeah.
As an adult, our brains are in the gutter, so we're like, oh, on his knees, you know, that's a sex joke kind of. But a kid's not gonna put two together with that. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I think that's right. Because I was seeing a lot of comments, like people saying Deadpool shouldn't be here. This is not for kids. You know, kids are in this park. All this stuff, right? It's like, okay, as adults, we think of that. I think that, but we have to remember, like, the kids aren't gonna like, you know, put 2 and 2 together, really. But at the same time, though, you know, don't treat kids as they're stupid. You know, kids aren't dumb, and it's like, you know, what I love is like that they're having Deadpool. I think Disney is doing it fantastically. They're having Deadpool be a Deadpool, but you know, toned down, but he's still Deadpool. That's still how his character is.
Yes.
And I love seeing the video where someone captured him like on the riding the unicorn, and there was Daddy Josh right there with a what was it? Jon Favreau, or was it?
I don't know.
What's his name?
Ken Potrock?
No, Favreau.
Feige? Kevin Feige?
No, Favreau.
Oh, Favreau was there?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, dude.
But what was this? Is it Jon Favreau?
Jon Favreau, yeah.
Jon Favreau. Okay, yeah.
But he was there.
Favreau.
He was there.
Yeah. If you watch the video, they're like shooting Deadpool like going this way, and those two were standing together.
Interesting. I didn't even know he was there.
I did not either. That is very, very interesting.
Yeah, so I think it's great because they're smiling with the crowd, and it's like I think how they're playing with Deadpool is great because it's like Disney is not afraid, and that's what I love to see. Disney's not afraid to take this character and put him into the park and have him do what he's doing in the park, right? I mean, heck, he even makes a joke about Splash Mountain in there.
I saw that.
You know, and I was like, yo, no way.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, this is awesome. And here's the, I know like the thing that bugs me with Disney is like these limited time things. No, just make it all the time. Why is it limited? No, like I know I understand if it's like a point where it's like, oh, we want to kind of test it out. I know
Right.
I get that with Deadpool, but this is great. Keep them there. I want to see Deadpool there all the time and Wolverine. Like,
Yeah, and I made this point a lot, but not everyone watches every single video, so I like to sometimes kind of reiterate. In Disney felt Who Framed Roger Rabbit was so adult they couldn't release it under the Disney Pictures banner, right? Yeah. So they thought it was so raunchy or inappropriate they couldn't even release it under Disney, but they still put those characters in the park. You're talking about Jessica Rabbit, who was faking an orgasm while playing patty cake, right? This character right here was in the park. She's a sex symbol, okay? Yeah. Scenes like this were in this movie, and they still put her in Disney MGM Studios. I think we can handle Deadpool. And mind you, yes, this isn't as raunchy as Deadpool, but this was 1988. I mean, you know, obviously the thing from 2024 is going to be raunchier, but back then, this was very raunchy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's just weird to me because me and Keegan Luke were talking about this. Well, how they have Deadpool in the park doing this stuff, but then you go and cover up Jessica Rabbit with the trench coat.
That doesn't make sense to me.
I don't get that. Like, no. It's just weird, but I think it's fantastic. I want them to keep them there. The cast member who's portraying Deadpool is doing amazing. I think he's doing a really good job. And yeah, it's just the how they're utilizing him. The execution is freaking cool. I like it. I think these fans and these Disney adults, which I am one, by the way, they just need to get over it. Like when I say that, I don't mean like, you know, just shut up and just, you know, let it be. What I mean by that is, like,
just shut up and let it be is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just shut up, let it be.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. It's just like they know these people, they want to have more adult stuff.
Sure.
But then when the time comes for it, oh, the kids. It's Disney. Okay, well, what do you want?
See, this is the issue that I have, and again, Bricky brought this up in the live show the other day, and it was absolutely brilliant, and it's absolutely true. This isn't a giant Chuck E. Cheese. You know what I'm saying? Like, Disney is for everybody. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm so sick of hearing about how, you know, like, and the Italiano jokes around a lot with it. Like, hey, this is Disney. What do the kids have to do with it, right?
Yeah.
but it's kind of it's funny, but it is kind of like it's not for just kids. And so when people say like, oh, you know, this isn't for kids, so it shouldn't be there, it's like, why not? I have no issue with adult stuff at the park. Now, you have to do it responsibly. I'm not saying it's a free-for-all. And I think Disney, by and large, is handling the Deadpool thing very responsibly. Mm-hmm. But I like the fact that you have bars at Disney. I have no issue with that. You know what I'm saying? I think that Walt wanted something that a place where everybody gets something out of it. And this whole idea that like everything needs to be for kids and turn it into like Bricky, what Bricky was saying, with like some Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, this is Disney's always been about everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Now here's the thing. What I would have had a problem with is if they had brought Deadpool for to be placed in Disneyland.
Yes, I think that's different. Exactly, because DCA is a older demo. Mm-hmm. Like DCA's demo is very similar, in my opinion, to that of like Universal's demo.
Right.
It's that same kind of like older kind of crowd. There's a lot more drinking at DCA. You know what I'm saying? You can get away with it here, you know? And he's not doing like dick jokes or anything like in front of everybody. He's throwing the innuendos out there, but it's not obvious. You have to really like, as an adult, you'll get it, but a kid's not going to notice that, like the on your knees thing. He was on his knees begging. A kid's not going to understand the innuendo. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And most of these jokes, they won't understand the innuendos. So, and they're really kind of the way they're done is kind of in a way kind of brilliant because of that. And it reminds me, like I said before, a lot of like kind of like the 90s like Looney Tunes or Warner Brothers stuff, because they used to do that too. They would pepper in some stuff that for the adults. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And And that's what I'm actually going to give Disney here props for, is doing that, because, and I've given them crap for this, and like for every other modern, every company in the modern time, is they're so scared to do stuff like that nowadays, because we have this stupid cancel culture, this whole, PC thing going on. And it's like, like you're treating everybody like little babies.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. Like, we're adults, we can handle this stuff. It's like, I don't understand why everything has to be just for kids or just exclusively adults. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. It's interesting. I wish they'd keep him there all the time too. I do. I would love it. Hey, you know what? Make a Deadpool bar. I'm down for a Deadpool bar, and you can go in there and have a few drinks, and Deadpool can walk around and make fun of you and stuff. It'd be great, dude.
That'd be great, dude. Yeah.
It'd be absolutely fantastic. But what say you, conductor? Any thoughts on this before we head out of here?
So my whole thinking was, when I talked to you and George about it, was that I like the fact that Deadpool's there. Like Webba mentioned, he still has his kind of, I'm going to say it, wise crack attitude, but it's dialed down to where it's not the R-rated attitude, but it's between PG and PG-13. So it still caters to the kids, but it also caters to the adults as well. They did add Wolverine as well, which is pretty amazing. We did see at Comic-Con that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be playing Doctor Doom in a Avengers movie. So we could see his character, Doctor Doom, in Avengers Campus, which is, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I kind of feel like Doctor Doom is like more of an adult character, less than a kid kind of character in a way, because he's just kind of evil all over the place. One thing I would say is, obviously you, OG, and George, you both are going to be at D23. And we're hoping to hear something about the Avengers e-ticket, which has been highly speculated about. The last time we heard something was in 2022 with Bob Chapek, talking about a multiverse attraction where it's going to include all sorts of characters from the MCU, but the ride itself kind of looked like a Transformers ride, unfortunately. Right. What if Deadpool, Wolverine, and Doctor Doom could be included in this multiverse attraction? We're thinking about it hard, because it's like, okay, well, some of the biggest comments that were on Twitter, on Instagram, or social period, the first day that the movie came out of Deadpool and Wolverine was, this is the movie that's going to lay the groundwork for these two characters to be included into the MCU.
Conductor, you bring up an interesting point. If you would have asked me this question a month ago, I would have said there's no chance they're going to add Deadpool into any attraction at the park. But what they're doing with the meet and greet and how they're dancing around the innuendos very cleverly, and even some of the stuff that's not even innuendos, like him riding the unicorn, which is just funny as hell. You know what I'm saying? Like the visual humor, even, right?
Yeah.
It's possible, dude. It's possible they add him in that Avengers e-ticket. It's possible I'm not saying it's gonna be a lot of screen time.
Sure.
As I say, screen time, because it's gonna be a screen. You know that, right? but I don't think it's gonna be a lot of screen time. But I wouldn't be shocked at this point if you see him like on a unicorn flying past, like, hey guys, how you doing? Whatever. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, because they're already beta testing him and getting you used to the idea of him being in that area. Yeah, look, he's not going to do any raunchy jokes, and he shouldn't, and he really hasn't done it at Avengers Campus. It's innuendo, so it's possible they might add him on there. And the movie is making a lot of moolah, so Disney's paying attention.
Well, and what I love too, actually, there's another point I want to make about the Avengers Campus Land, but what I love about this movie making a lot of money and it's being very well received, and with Deadpool Wolverine being in the park, is that because it's rated R, right? But it's also a Marvel movie that's under the Disney banner. What I love about this is that you know, because a lot of times studios go based off numbers, right? Like the success of financial product. And what I love about this, about seeing how well they're being received in the park, how well the movie's been received, is I really hope that Disney can then be like, oh, you know, the public actually is, or fans are actually okay with this type of stuff. So not saying to make everything rated R or making everything raunchy or whatever, but don't be so afraid to dip your toe into that, into like other properties.
Exactly. Dip your toe into the Deadpool, right? Right, Emma? Exactly. Into that Deadpool.
Yep.
No,
just a tip.
Just there you go. See, that's how you do sexual innuendo the right way. That's how you do it the right way. And this is how you do sexual innuendo the wrong way. Okay, this is wrong way. This is wrong way. Okay, this is wrong way.
Oh, shit.
Oh man, I tell you.
Yes.
I'll tell you. But go ahead. I'm sorry, brother.
Oh no! So I just wanted to, actually, Audrey, you make your point first. I'll go back to what I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, we here on the channel we defend Deadpool.
Just what the fuck did he do?
Yes, exactly.
Go ahead.
But I actually want to real quick talk about Avengers Campus and Galaxy's Edge.
Sure.
So while Galaxy's Edge is bigger, and you know, has more stuff, I guess you could say, like, you know, 2 attractions and some shops and whatnot, the lightsaber and the build the droid thing. What I think, what we know that Galaxy's Edge is lacking on is what Avengers Campus is doing right. And what I mean by that is that they have the Avengers music blasting in that thing. Anytime a new movie or show comes out, they bring the characters into Avengers Campus. They're not stuck in a timeline thing in there. That's what they should be doing for Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Galaxy's Edge is like, it's funny because Avengers Campus and Galaxy's Edge have kind of like, they're like yin and yang, like opposites. Because Avengers Campus aesthetically looks cheap, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Not really, small, kind of cheap, not really fleshed out. But what it excels in is that kinetic energy with the characters being out there. There's no timeline. Galaxy's Edge is the opposite. Aesthetically, it's like through the roof. You know what I'm saying? It's like amazing looking, but there's no kinetic energy. You know what I'm saying? Right. So they you know, so hopefully this Avengers e-ticket sort of gives Avengers Campus what it needs, which is some aesthetics to make it look cool. And also substance. You need a big e-ticket in there. And then hopefully we can get some actual like kinetic energy over there in Galaxy's Edge eventually.
Well, here's the thing. I would say if this next e-ticket that comes out is really a banger, I would say it could potentially be better than Galaxy's Edge. And I say that because 1, you're not stuck to the timeline. 2, there's a lot of kinetic energy. Like, you have the characters, you have like the stunt shows that they have up top of like by the what's the ship called? On top of the building there. I forgot what it's called. But if you but then if you have 3 attractions, you have, you know, you have Guardians.
Oh, the Quinjet.
Yes, Quinjet. So you have the stunt show there. You have some food and shopping there, but then you'll have 3 attractions. You'll have one that's Guardians, which everybody loves. You have like your, you know, kind of slow moving toaster ride Spider-Man shooter thing. And then you'll have a new e-ticket there. And I think probably as a whole, the land could possibly be better than Galaxy's Edge as a whole.
Yeah, it could. If that e-ticket hits a home run, you have a really banger e-ticket. You still got Mission Breakout, which is a great ride too.
Yeah.
And then you got the kind of the mediocre, you know, web slingers and stuff. But that kind of fleshes that land out. And considering how small it is to have all that stuff packed into that little land,
it's a lot.
That's a lot of stuff. And a lot of people are saying, oh, well, you know, Disney's getting cheap with the Doctor Strange entertainment being cut. I'm not so sure that entertainment being cut is necessarily because of money saving and not because that area, because that Strange show sits dangerously close to where they're going to be building this Avengers e-ticket.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's not that far from where the Avengers e-ticket is going to be in terms of like if they were going to build it where we think they're going to build it, which is like kind of like behind that Avengers vault or whatever.
Yeah.
The Doctor Strange area could be possibly used for like maybe extended queue or even just the regular queue. Who knows? I have a feeling though that show has been shut down because of to make way for that Avengers e-ticket. That's just my speculation, but we'll see, you know?
Yeah. You know, it's so funny that you guys bring that up because we've all talked about it at one point or another that DCA has always felt like there's missing that big e-ticket attraction, missing a whole bunch of other things. I think personally, if we get the Avengers e-ticket, we get that announcement, we see, and I've said this on my live stream when I had you, OG, and George. I said what Daddy Josh needs to do, he needs to announce that Avengers e-ticket, and he needs to show that they are making progress, even if it shows, because behind the campus building, it's a parking lot and a staging area.
Right.
If they show that they've ripped up the asphalt and they're grading it, they're showing evidence that they're marking things and doing that, that'll give us hope that they are making progress on this Avengers e-ticket, because we all know, hands down, just because Disneyland Forward was approved, they got a lot of other things to build before they build lands. One to be in particular is the Eastern Gateway project. That has to be built and completed before they build any lands. So I think the Avengers e-ticket would give us that extra ride that DCA needs so bad to kind of level the playing field for the next couple years, so they have the chance to build that Eastern Gateway.
Right. Well said, Conductor. I completely agree with you on that. Yeah, you're right. Josh needs to come out there at the expo. By the way, there was a great video. I'll link it at the end of this video, because I at the top of my head, I don't remember the name of the podcast, but they had Scott Gooston as a guest, and it's phenomenal. I'll link it at the very end of this video, because I forgot the name of the podcast. I do apologize. But anyway, long story short, Scott Gooston was on the show, and he was saying kind of the same thing. Josh needs to build that trust back with fans. Just to come out there and say, this is what we're doing, is not necessarily going to be enough, because they did the whole this is what we're doing thing a few years ago with Epcot.
Yeah.
And then the plans changed dramatically. Now, to be fair, I get it. There was a pandemic. We had the CEO changed twice. You know what I'm saying? We went from Iger to Chapek back to Iger. I mean, there was a lot of drama in those few years. I get it, but the trust has been broken. So Josh, to your point, Conductor, needs to get up there and say, look, the e-ticket's coming. This is what we're getting. And have like a photo op with like Ken Potrock with a giant shovel or something, right? Like kind of like what they did with Pandora, right?
Yeah.
Where they had like all the executives and like Tom Staggs, they were holding the shovel like they broke ground. Something like that. Give the fans confidence that you need to build that trust back. It's been broken,
Yeah. And actually, so there's two things I want to say. One,
Sure.
I want to say kind of, I guess, as like a teaser for like the Lego video we'll do, OG, is to back up your guys' point about the Eastern Gateway project for the parking, right? Because you got to build parking to add capacity, right? Because especially if you're taking over different parking lots and whatnot, right? You gotta have somewhere people to park. Well, to back that up, at least at Legoland, they're building a new and you can see it. So this is not like I'm not disclosing any secret stuff. You can see it. They're building a new I guess parking structure, because there are plans to utilize some current parking structure for something else.
Nice.
So they're building a new parking structure garage up to fit in those people, because they're taking that other spot. But back to Daddy Josh and the whole sorry, what was it? What was it? Oh, the D23 stuff.
Yeah, and how he needs to deliver, and how he needs to not just announce stuff, but needs to like give us confidence that these things are actually going to get built.
He needs to show concrete evidence at this point.
Yes. So what I want to say about that was that I agree with you guys. He absolutely does. What I loved seeing Universal do is build things.
Yes.
Right. Like, and here's I like announcements, but what's been going on so far, and what video games did a lot with like E3 was I do not like or care for when any entertainment company announces a project that's like 6, 7, 10 years out. Like,
Right.
I don't really care. Like, if like what I love seeing Universal do is they just start building something. And then later, while they're already in production of building it, they're like, "Hey guys, look, this is what we're doing, And I'm like, okay, that is awesome. That's what I want to see Disney do. Yes, it's nice and you get excited in the moment when you hear an announcement, but then again, with as much Disney as a whole have been scrapping projects or it's been taking way too long, like I just want to see some physical evidence happening.
I agree with you completely. Disney is sort of like, for example, D23 is kind of the gift and the curse.
Yeah.
Because Universal doesn't have a D23 Expo kind of equivalent, right? So Universal can get away with what you're saying, and it works so well. That whole, Disney is kind of stuck now. Now they have these D23 Expos every like 2 years. Now they're stuck having to announce something.
But that's too short though. Like they should do it like every 4 years at least, because that way it gives time for the Imagineers to plan, budget, start building stuff, and then hey, look, we got this cool stuff going. We're already in the middle. Like that's what I was talking to George. I said what I loved what they did with the Country Bears for like the revamp at Walt Disney World. I love that we didn't know about it, and then once they announced it, they've already been working on it. And so by the time it went down and came back up, it didn't feel like it was that long because they were already in the middle of doing that. That's what I want to see for these projects, or at least, a good, maybe 70% of them at least.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool.
Absolutely.
Well, see, the thing I'm going to point on before we all leave for the night is, and quote me if I'm wrong, OG, I've heard you and George talk about it numerous of times. When it comes to projects like Disneyland Forward, for example, talking about the Avengers e-ticket, talking about Avatar, talking about, Zootopia possibly coming to the resort, and they show concept art, right? And for example, let's talk about Avatar for a second. The concept art that we've all seen so far is absolutely stunning. It's breathtaking.
Right.
I think it could be even more breathtaking than what Orlando has. Okay, but here's where I have the problem. When they're sitting there bragging, and I don't know if bragging is the exact word I'm looking for, but bragging, oh yeah, it's going to cost us this much money, and then let's say they start building it, and then they finish it, and us guests walk through, and we're all like, how much did you guys spend? There's no way in hell you spent this. What the hell did you spend it on?
Yes, exactly, conductor. And that's what I've talked to OG about as well is I don't really, at this point, I don't care about how much you're spending on something.
Yeah. No, I mean,
like if I like to see you build it and then maybe mid project or after, but like, hey, yeah, we spent this amount of money. Cool. Because now as a guest or as a fan, I'm not expecting all this grandeur of stuff that apparently all this money could buy and can get you on this project and for everybody else, because everybody's going to have their own interpretation and perception of how much a certain amount can get the park.
Well, and that's the issue I've had with the whole turbocharge thing. It's exciting. it's a great headline. $60 billion turbocharge. It's fantastic. Love to hear it. The problem with that is if you don't know what you're building, that number means nothing, because 60 billion can get you a whole lot or it can get you not that much. Right. I've used the analogy before, like on the channel, like if you have $1,000 for the whole week. Okay. And you're like, okay, I'm going to use this $1,000 at the strip club. Right. If you go one day that week, well, $1,000 will get you pretty far. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
If you're going 7 days a week, though, right, and you're spending that $1,000 over 7 days, you're not getting the same experience though that you would if you spent all 1,000 on one day, right?
Yeah,
it's a different experience, right? So that's what I'm saying. It sounds like a lot of money, but depending on what you spend it on, what kind of projects you're building, how many projects you're doing, how you allocate it means all the difference. And we don't know how they're allocating it, so the number means absolutely nothing. So I agree with you guys. Stop announcing the numbers and just announce projects, and go from there.
And and then on top of that, there's always going to be cutbacks in projects.
Oh, exactly.
Always.
Yeah. Every company has that. They all have cutbacks, Universal's smart because they don't really release a lot of information. So not until it's like really far along and they pretty much have everything like set, like they're already building it. Like Webba, you were saying, they're already building it, So their way is really like less risky because by the time they do really give you art or anything like that, it's so far along in the process, there's very little chance that anything's getting cut, Well,
you can see evidence of it. And a lot of people, like on the Universal aspect, obviously, thanks to BioReconstruct, we're seeing almost every single detail of Epic Universe. But like, for example, the Fast and Furious coaster in Hollywood, to this day, we still haven't seen concept art. We saw that one concept art piece from Screamscape, but that was from them. That was not Universal. That didn't come from any Universal exec whatsoever. That didn't come from Brian Roberts, none of that. So, to your point, Universal likes building it, and then once they release concept art, it's kind of like, oh, okay, I can kind of already see that. You're just confirming what I see.
Exactly. Well, gentlemen, fantastic conversation. Before we leave, though, we get out of here, Conductor, I actually I have an old intro that I used to use when I used to make Universal videos. I know you're a big Universal guy, so I'm going to play it. I think you'll dig this, bro. Here we go. There we go.
You gotta use that more often.
You know what I'm saying? For the Universal stuff. Absolutely. I saw it on here and I forget about it. But I'm like, oh, that's pretty dope, dude. Pretty dope. But Conductor, thank you so much, brother, for joining us. It's always a pleasure having you on the channel. If you let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, where they can subscribe to you on YouTube.
Absolutely. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Theme Park Conductor. You can find me on Twitter at Theme Conductor. Every Thursday at 7 p.m., I do my Conductor Thursday live streams. We've had some amazing guests, including Mr. Webba here, including Orange Grove 55 and George the Italiano. This week coming up, we are going to be having Universal High. So he is going to be a very special guest. And we're going to talk everything Universal from past to future for the Hollywood Park. So I'm super stoked for that.
That's fun. I like Universal High. That's very cool. So this Thursday, right? What time? 7 p.m., I believe?
7 p.m.
Thursday, 7 p.m., Universal High. If you guys are not familiar with Universal High, fantastic. I don't know if he's a content creator, but he's on Twitter and he does great stuff. The thing I like about Universal High, too, is he's very, very... he's passionate about Universal, you know what I'm saying? He has a lot of passion, but he's not afraid to criticize, And so he'll go out there, he'll praise it, but he'll also call them out when things aren't great. So that's a great catch. Go ahead, Conductor.
You know what's so funny? He reminds me of Bricky.
Interesting. Oh, I'm very curious. I've only seen him on Twitter, so I'm very curious how he is on your live show. I'll be there. I'll be checking it out. Mr. Webba, if you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. OG, thank you so much for having me on. It was a very fun time and pleasure talking to you and Mr. Theme Park Conductor down there on all these topics. You can find me on Instagram, which I am more active on now than I actually have ever been. And Twitter, you can find me on there as well. I'm not on there as much really anymore, but I'm still there if you want to, chat or whatnot. And then you can also find me here on OG55 and my name handle, Mr. Webba at Webslinger760.
There he is. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we discussed today. We would love to hear from you, whether you agree with us or disagree with us. Just be nice in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55.
세상은 누구에게나 공평하게 추악해.